Hello friends, in today's tutorial we will learn a very basic and very important concept of functions. Basically, functions in TypeScript or any other programming language, functions are the building blocks of maintainable and reusable code. The basic purpose of functions is so that we can use this function everywhere whenever we need. So basic purpose of the functions is reusability. A function is a set of statements to perform a specific task. Basically, functions organize the program into logical blocks of code. Once we have defined functions, we can call these functions to access the code or to perform a specific task. This makes the code reusable, and moreover, functions make it easy to read and maintain the code of your application. Function declaration tells the compiler about a function's name, its return type, and the parameters which a function takes. And definition of the function actually provides the actual body of the function, or we can say actual action that we want to perform. So let's take an example of a function in TypeScript. First of all, we will see syntax of a function, or we can say how we can write a function in TypeScript. So for writing a function in TypeScript, you need to add a keyword which is function, and after writing the function you need to add name of the function, and we can say here we have a function named as info, and then you have opening and closing parentheses, and then we have two opening and closes curly braces, which is actually body of the function, and we will write our code into this body of the function, whatever we want to perform, or whatever we want to uh, get from this function. So in this example we are just printing a simple statement, and we can say print out function is called. Okay, so this is a very basic function in TypeScript, and we can call this function in TypeScript just typing its name and parentheses and semicolon. That's it. So compile your code to see the output, and then run your JavaScript file, and you will see output function is called. So this was a basic function. Now in some cases we need a return value from the function. So if we want this function must return a value, then we have to modify this function with data type. Which type of data this function will return? Let's suppose this function is returning string type data type. Okay, now we have to return a string value, so we need to add a return keyword with this string. Okay, function info, and its return type is string, and then we have curly braces. Okay, and now we are calling info function. We need to delete this JS file because we already have info function. Control S and compile your code again. We have function is called one error. Let me check why we are getting this error string. Let's see what is this error. A function whose declared type is neither void nor any must return a value. Okay, typing mistake. RETURN. This function is returning a string. That's it. So you can see this function is returning a string, and in the body of this function we have a statement of return, and after this statement we must return a string. Now when we call this function, it will return a value. Now we print that return value. So log and call this function within this parenthesis. Okay, so clear your terminal and compile your code and run your code. So here we can see our output function is called. Okay, so sometimes we need to pass parameters to this function, and so that this function can manipulate values, input values. So parameters are a mechanism to pass values to the function, and the parameter values are passed to the function during its invocation, or we can say when we call this function we will pass the parameters to this function. So here we take two parameters. Let's suppose p1 and its data type is string, and the second one parameter is p2 and its data type also string. And now we perform concatenation of these two parameters and return its value. So we say p1 plus p2, and after concatenation return the result. So here we will call this info function by passing two parameters. The first parameter is hello and the second parameter is word. Okay, so compile your program and run your program. So it will print hello world. So hello world is printed. Clear your screen. So this was a parameterized function. In TypeScript we have another concept which is optional parameters. We can pass optional parameters to this info functional. Basically, optional parameters can be used when arguments need not be compulsorily passed for a function execution. A parameter can be marked optional by appending a question mark to its name. Let's suppose we want a third one parameter that is p3, and we want this p3 is a optional parameter. So after its name we will put a question mark, and after question mark we have a colon and type of this parameter. So this p3 is optional. When we call this info method, yeah, info function, we don't need to pass this p3 argument, but we can pass this third parameter, but we it's optional. It's up to you, you want to pass this parameter or not. But the thing that must be that is very important, the optional parameter should be set as the last argument in a function. If an optional parameter is not passed a value during the function call, the parameter's value is set to undefined. So let's compile this program uh, and let's see the output and run your JavaScript. So here you can see hello world is printed. So we can pass the third parameter. It's totally optional. Okay, in this way. Now the next concept is REST parameters in TypeScript. Basically, REST parameters are similar to variable arguments in Java. As we use variable arguments in Java, similarly we can use REST parameters in TypeScript. REST parameters don't restrict the number of values that you can pass to a function. However, the values passed must all be of the same type, just like array. In other words, REST parameters act as a placeholders for multiple arguments of the same type. To declare a REST parameter, the parameter name is prefixed with three dots. Let's suppose we have p1 is a REST parameter, so we need to add three dots with name of the parameter, and after that we have we have data type of this parameter p1, and data type is number, and it's basically a number array. So data type must be set to an array. Moreover, a function can have at the most one rest parameter. Any non-rest parameters should come before the before this rest parameter. So here we have a rest parameter. So we when we will call this info method, yeah, info function, we can pass multiple arguments to this function. So rename this function with sum, and here we have variables like variable I, and its data type is number. Secondly, we have another variable and its name is sum, and its data type is number, and initial value is 0. Okay, oh, function name is sum and variable name is sum, so rename it with s. Okay, now in this sum function uh, we will return a number, and here we have a for loop to calculate sum of all the numbers passed into this function. So we will write a for loop. Here we have a variable I, and its initial value is 0, and I condition is I less than s dot p1, because the input parameter is p1 dot length, and we will increment the value of I by 1. And in the body of for loop we will perform addition s equal to s plus array, because we are taking an array as input, so we need to get first, second, third, and so on, all the values to sum up. So we will use p1 and get value at index I. That's it. And after this for loop we will return s as a sum. So here we call this sum function and pass three elements, 1, 2, and 3. So this function will sum up all the values passed as an argument to this function, and will return 3 plus 2 plus 1, and the final output will be 6. So compile your code and run your code, and you will get 6 as a output. You can pass any number of arguments to this function, like 4. In this case it will returns 10. Compile and run your code, and you will get 10 as an output. The next concept in TypeScript is anonymous function. So anonymous functions basically are functions that are not bound to an identifier. Means to say, when we declare a function, we don't have a name of the function. So these functions are called anonymous functions. These functions are dynamically declared at runtime. Anonymous functions can accept inputs and return outputs, just as standard functions we have seen over here. Anonymous functions is usually not accessible after its initial creation. Variables can be assigned an anonymous function. Such an expression is called a function expression. So let's take an example of anonymous function. Here we have a variable like this variable, and its variable name is sum, and then we have equal, and then we have a function, and we are not passing any arguments to this function, and no return type. I am closing all these, and then we have this print statement inside this anonymous function. Okay, so this type of function is called anonymous function. So how we can call this anonymous function if we need to execute statements within the body of this function. So to call this function, you need to type the name of this variable. So type name of this variable, then close, open and close the parenthesis, and that's it. So compile your code and run your code, you will get function called as a output. So this is all about anonymous functions. Now we take another uh, uh, concept in TypeScript, which is lambda or arrow function. Lambda basically refers to anonymous functions in programming, and lambda functions are a concise mechanism to represent anonymous functions. Lambda functions are also called as arrow functions. So let's take example of arrow functions. We will convert this function into a lambda or arrow function. So we just need to remove this keyword function, and we have to place arrow, and then that's it. This is our arrow function, and when we want to call this function, so way of calling this function is similar as anonymous function. So you can compile your code and run your JavaScript, and you will see anonymous function or arrow function is called. So that's it for today. In next tutorial we will see some other concepts of TypeScript. Thank you so much.